Good evening, and thank you for watching. My name is Arren Kimbel-Sannit. I'm a reporter with the Arizona Capitol Times, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's debate. The Citizens Clean Elections Commission is the sponsor for this event. As the state's voter education agency, Clean Elections hosts debates so voters have the opportunity to hear directly from candidates, ask questions on issues that matter most to them, and vote informed. Candidates that have a contested general election have been invited to participate in the debate. Candidates that have opted into the Clean Elections Clean Funding program, such as this one, are required to participate, while traditional candidates are invited and encouraged to attend. Please, as the moderator, I will ensure that candidates have the opportunity to engage directly with their respective opponents, although there are none here tonight. So this will be more of a Q&A format. That being said, the questions that will be asked are coming directly from the voters and from myself. Leading up to the debates, Clean Elections conducted outreach to voters across the state soliciting questions for the candidates. And for those voters who are watching this debate live, they can submit a question at any time for our candidate via email at debates@kc-a.com, over text at 928-362-1062, or on the phone at 480-937-1297. We screen questions for clarity to eliminate duplications, speeches, personal attacks, etc. The debate is scheduled for around a half hour, so we may not get to all of the questions, but we'll do our best. Now for our candidate. You have 1 minute for your opening statement and 1 minute for your closing statement, and 1 to 2 minutes for your responses is a good general rule, but since it's just the two of us, we can be a little bit more flexible. I may limit your responses for time management purposes, just to kind of keep things moving. To conclude, our goal tonight is to connect candidates and voters so our electorate may vote informed above all else. Tonight, we have Mariana Sandoval, who's running for the House as a Democrat in LD13. Not joining us are the district's two Republican incumbents, Representatives Dunn and Osborne, so it'll just be Miss Sandoval and myself tonight. Now that we have all of that good stuff out of the way, if you want to take some time to give your opening statement, kind of tell the voters what you're about, now would be the opportunity to do so.
Sure, great. Thank you. Thank you, Arren. So first off, I'd like to thank the Clean Elections Committee for sponsoring this debate, and of course you, for Arren, for being here with me. My name is Mariana Sandoval, and I'm running for the state. I'm running for state representative to represent all of the residents of LD13. I am the daughter of a single mother and a Mexican immigrant. I wasn't born into wealth or power. I was born into a family that would be considered way below the poverty guidelines. And women like me aren't supposed to run for office. I'm not a career politician. I am a working class Arizonan. But my mom sacrificed, suffered, and worked tirelessly so that I can have a better life than the one she was born into. She taught me to work hard, have strong moral ethics, to always put family first, and to find solutions to problems. She inspired me to lead a life of public service and to give back. She would always say to me, once you've made it to the top, don't forget to turn back, offer your hand to help the next person up. And it was those values that she ingrained in me that propelled me to run so that I can lend a helping hand. We must replace the career politicians to undo damage done to our state. Their individual private success was built on public investment, and they have been starving government revenue for years. And that makes people scared. When we take power, we will make sure no one is left behind. Some people in LD13 live very good lives, but I'm running to ensure that everyone can live a good life, not just some of us. I'm the only candidate here today. My opponents didn't show up. I'm the only candidate in this race running clean. I didn't take any PAC donations, business donations, or special interest donations. I'm the only Democrat, and I'm the only working person of color. And most importantly, I am the best candidate to represent all of you in the Arizona House of Representatives. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I think just to start, a good way to sort of set the table is to talk about the COVID-19 pandemic. Obviously, that's what dominates much of our thinking in day-to-day lives at this point. And I want to frame this question just by talking about the role of the legislature. I think we have both Democrats and Republicans who feel that the legislature should be back in session, although for different reasons. I don't think that either party really trusts the other to, kind of cooperate. I'm wondering, what's your thinking? Like, what should lawmakers be doing right now? And if you were an elected official, what are some things that you think the legislature should be doing in the immediate to address this virus, whether that's a special session or just planning for next year to make sure this kind of stuff doesn't happen again?
Great. Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. Well, what I'm doing now, I also serve on a local school board. And so, we just last Wednesday, we voted whether to move forward with online learning or continue our hybrid model in our school district. And in the almost 4 years that I've served on the school board, I have never had so many teachers contact me with concern of a fear of their safety and fear of their lives. And they didn't want to go back into the classroom. They don't feel that it's safe. They don't feel that the metrics that we met the metrics, that we're looking at the science, we're trusting the science. And it was just, it went down 2-3. I voted in opposition for it. But I was very disappointed in the way that our board voted, especially because we had such a high turnout of teachers opposing that. And so, that is just an example of the things I am doing right now locally, while we're working on making sure people's lives are safe, our students are safe, our staff is safe, and making sure people are being fed, our students are being fed. My opponents are out disconnected with reality, with their diamonds and pearls and their leopard, pants shopping, and or just don't care about the fact that they're not here tonight. Them not being here tonight shows, as a constituent myself of LD13, just shows that they don't care, that they don't want to address the needs of the people that are hurting, the people that have lost jobs, that are losing their home, that can't pay their rent, that are losing their health care because they lost their jobs. And so they should definitely be back in the legislature, trying to help all those people that are hurting, trying to get some assistance for small businesses who are the heart and soul of our communities. If we don't invest in people, then the people can't invest. An investment in people is an investment in our own economy, because they're going to put that money right back into the economy, and it's going to help all of us. So I definitely think they should be back, trying to figure out solutions to help the working people of Arizona and the hurting people of Arizona.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because the Republicans that do want to go back seem that their primary motivations are doing things like protecting businesses from legal liability or reining in the governor's emergency powers in a time of a public health crisis. Do you think that these are things that lawmakers should be worrying about right now? And if not, what should they be doing instead?
Here's the bottom line. Without consumers, there are no businesses. There is no economy. And so if you don't worry about making sure people are staying alive and people are staying healthy, the 5,000 plus people that have died of COVID in the state of Arizona are not just numbers on a spreadsheet. These people were mothers, they were fathers, they were sisters, they were sons and daughters of someone. And it pains me, the lack of empathy, the lack of care for the normal working person in our community. They're focused on the wrong thing. There will be no businesses if there is no one to consume what they're selling. And so I think they need to refocus and reconnect with the community. Have some town halls, talk to your constituents, see what their needs are, see where they're suffering, see what's happening. And that's, I think what's happened is they disconnected. They live in another world that is not the real world for the most of us. Mm-hmm. And so, I think their focus is erroneous.
Mm-hmm. When you talk to voters in the district, when you're making calls or what have
I'm sorry, you kind of froze a little bit.
Yep, sorry. When you're talking to people on the digital campaign trail, or talking to parents at school board meetings. What do you hear as some of the primary, kind of COVID-related concerns that people in your district have? Is it unemployment or housing? Like, what are you hearing?
The main concern is health, right? The health and safety of people, the teachers, the parents, the students. I've gotten parents emailing me and telling me how horrified they are of even the thought of us going back in the middle of this pandemic, and it's just look at it across the nation. If you look at all the universities or all the schools that have gone back, during this pandemic, 2 weeks later they end up shutting down because there's an outbreak, because the problem gets worse than before, because they weren't prepared, because so the fear of dying, that's the number one concern. And then with that is the loss of income and the fact that we have an unemployment in Arizona that is only $240. The COVID relief is ending soon. But we are the second lowest unemployment rate in the nation. We're like the second lowest in everything. It's like 49 is our favorite number for everything, for education, for teacher pay, for unemployment benefits. No one can live on $240 a week. I know. There was a time where my husband was unemployed and we had to rob Peter to pay Paul. It was very difficult. And right now, people are going weeks and weeks without working because of the way that our economy is functioning due to COVID. And so our people need relief. We need to invest on Arizonans. That is where we need to focus right now.
Mm-hmm. So, even if the Democrats are able to take both chambers, you'll still be dealing with a Republican in the governor's office. And when you're looking at something like our unemployment rate, it seemed at least that the governor is more interested in letting Congress deal with, various kinds of welfare programs during COVID instead of having the state pay for it. And even if the Democrats are in control in both chambers, that same mentality might exist in the governor's office. So as a Democrat, how do you argue to fiscal conservatives, social conservatives, that, only paying people $240 a week on unemployment is not enough, and that it's time that Arizona keeps pace with, even other Republican states in the area that, as you referenced, have higher rates than ours? How do you convince a conservative that this is something that's worth their,
Well, first off, I would say to the governor, you try living on $240 a week. You try paying that brophy tuition for your kids with $240 a week. And secondly, listen, we're not gonna try to convince anyone because you can't change people's minds, right? But what you can do is work across the aisle and lay out the facts and lay out the needs of the community and work with the other side. Because I mean, I am not going to come in with a divisive attitude. I am there to work for the people, and whatever it takes to work for the people, we just need to come to the table and work those issues out to address the needs of the community. And so that's what I would do. First off, bring him to the table, lay out the facts, lay out the needs, and then he can decide from there. I mean, I can't change the whole structure or his mentality or anyone's mentality. All I can do is tell you, here are the needs, here are the facts, and this is what we need to do. Meet us in the middle.
Mm-hmm. So on the subject of collaboration, it's interesting because Southern Arizona, you have a district like LD13 where Republicans do well. Next door, you have a district like LD4, which of course, the House Minority Leader, no shortage of Democrats there. Both kind of centered on Yuma County, which has more Democrats than Republicans. But Democrats have struggled in your district. Are there things that you have done to turn out Democratic voters in LD13, especially in Yuma County, and to show people that even though this is a district that has had Republican leadership for a while, that there's actually a path for Democrats here, and that if we can get enough people out, maybe they can flip the district?
Yes. So thank you for that question. It's very timely. So we are planning a rally out there. We're planning to do contactless droplet. We have radio ads coming in Spanish. We have ads coming in the newspaper, and we have a strong Democratic club in Yuma that is very involved and active. And so we have done virtual meetings with them. I mean, since COVID, everything really has been virtual. We haven't done any direct contact with the public because of for health reasons, for obvious reasons. But absolutely, Yuma has a $1 billion agriculture industry, and it is very important not just to District 13, but to our entire state. One third of our budget comes from the industry and the agriculture industry. I mean, it's huge. I just read an article the other day that talked about. I had no idea that they did this, but Yuma exports like wheat to Italy. I mean, I thought that was it's amazing. Like we supply the greens almost in the entire country, so it is a big deal. And so with that $1 billion agriculture industry, I want to tell those voters, and I want to tell the Yuma County, not just the Democrats, but everyone, that I'm here to represent everyone, not just the Democrats. So I am going to be the representative of all people, not just Democrats.
Mm-hmm. Where do you think that this? What do you think explains the facts that Democrats have not been able to get the kind of success that they would want in this district in the past? I mean, it's interesting because we talk about farms. I would have to imagine that for those agricultural workers who are eligible to vote, probably most of them are Democratic or at least lean left. Most people who own farms, especially the really nice fancy farms, probably lean Republican, right? So theoretically, there should be people in this district who would support Democrats, who support progressive ideals. How do you think the party has kind of failed to get those people to get to the polls and to get those people involved in politics in the past? And how can you sort of change that moving forward?
Well, here's what I think. I think that most people, not just people in Yuma, but just working people in general, they're just trying to survive. They're trying to go to work, get a paycheck, pay their bills, buy food for their kids, keep a roof over their heads, and keep food on the table. Most people don't tend to not get involved in politics. Most people don't care because no one has gone out to tell them you matter. I care. I'm here for you. I want to represent you and your needs and your family because I know what it is to be struggling, because I know what it is to be poor. I don't know whether anyone has done that or not. I'm sure people have. But the other thing is with farm workers, a lot of the farmhand, especially close to the border, they come in on permit. So they're not necessarily residents of Yuma, right? They live in Mexico and then they come in and work. And so it's very hypocritical of our farm owners to take advantage of that labor and of that cheap hand and then not want to invest in that same community, right? And that community that is helping them grow their wealth. And so I'm here for everyone. And that's my message for every working person, for every business owner, for every person that lives in LD13. Just I keep delivering that message to them and telling them that I'm here to represent everyone, not just the 1%, not just the businesses, not just the farm owners or the business owners, everyone.
What are some of the unique challenges for that come with trying to run a district like this, or trying to lead in a district like this, where you have people who might not be permanent residents or who are on temporary visas and stuff like that, may not have access to the same social services that someone who is a permanent resident would. What are some of their unique needs in a time like this, and what do you think you can do at the legislature to try to help some of those folks out?
Well, their needs are just like everybody else's, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, they're suffering like anybody else that doesn't have a job, that doesn't have insurance right now. Their needs are like everyone else's. But if we've learned anything from this pandemic, it's how connected we are to each other worldwide, not just in Arizona, not just in the United States, but what happens to one can happen to all, and we have seen that with this pandemic. Mm-hmm. And so we need to be looking at our state as a whole, right? For example, let's look at dreamers, right? Those kids may not be here legally. They were brought here as children against their own will. We have invested in educating these children, right? Their parents have paid taxes that, by the way, they can't get back. They can't file a tax return and get their money back like the rest of us can, right? They put money into the bucket and they're not able to get anything back. So we've invested money in educating these children, right? From elementary to college. And again, by the way, they can't apply for any benefits for, college. They can't apply for financial aid or any of the aid that any other legal permanent resident or US citizen has the privilege of being able to do. So once we've educated and invested in these kids, why give that talent away? Why want to push that talent out, right? We've invested the money in them. Let them stay here and contribute their gifts, their talents, what they know and what they want to give, because this is the only country they know. They know no other country. They've grown up here. They've been educated by our system here. Then let them give those gifts and talents to us. Don't give them away. That is not a good business investment. And I'm not even a business owner. That just makes, logical sense.
Yeah. I want to pivot here a little bit. We have a question from a voter. This is a question specifically about climate change. They worry that at the federal and state level, there are not enough government officials who are willing to listen to scientists, who are willing to maintain a scientific workforce that can provide input in times like these. And they ask, how do you plan to ensure that science is central to government decision making? And how do you kind of answer that question in the lens of an issue like climate change, which Democrat and Republican alike, most people don't really talk about on the local level because a lot of that stuff is up to the federal government. I get that, but
well,
how
some of it, not all of it.
Not all of it. Yeah, please go ahead.
So let me just start there. First of all, I believe in science. Okay.
Yeah.
I believe, and that's been one of the big issues, right? I think that because our education system is 49th in the nation, it shows that this leadership that we have and we've had for years has failed to invest in education. So they don't care about education. Therefore, they don't care about the experts and about the educated people in the science fields. They don't respect those decisions, or they don't believe them. So I believe in science, and I believe we need to be following scientific facts. And you're right. A lot of these, and I believe climate change is real. A lot of these are federal level policies, but we have something called the Arizona Department of Environmental Quality here that is supposed to protect our water and our air, but that hasn't, under the Republican leadership, hasn't really been enforcing or prosecuting polluters of air or water. I know. I used to work for the Attorney General's office. I used to represent that office. That was one of the agencies. That was our client agency. And so from when I started at the AG's office towards the end, when I transferred from that unit to a different unit, it changed substantially, right? I started under a Democratic leadership. And so there was a Democratic governor that appointed somebody that actually cared about the environment. And then things started to change and we stopped going after polluters. And so that's where we can start. So when we put someone in charge of an agency that is charged with making sure that our environmental laws and our air and our water is followed, and we make sure that the polluters are held accountable for that's going to make a difference for us here locally. That's going to give us cleaner air. That's going to have less water polluted, less soil polluted. Protecting the wildlife as well. Because my client agency was also the Department of Game and Fish. And so for me, the environment, our wildlife, it's important. It's a big deal. And so if we have the right leaders, we can make sure all those things are protected and that we're working towards a cleaner Arizona.
I have to imagine with the agricultural industry, you see specific examples of environmental degradation. Are there some specific issues in Yuma that you think the voters should be aware of where there's polluters who are going unchecked, or instances of things like environmental racism that you think that people should know about?
Well, I'm not sure about specifically in Yuma, but in general, most farmers there tends to be a little bit more pollution, right? Because of it's the nature of the industry. But for us, what we went after, it was the bigger businesses, the big businesses that did canning, or the big, underground storage tanks, or the developers, those kinds of big businesses that were either didn't want to, if you have friends at the governor's office, and you tell them, what, I want to build this, and we have people that are not enforcing our laws in charge of that agency that's supposed to, go after them, then they get away with whatever they get away with. And so that's something that we need to put a stop to. We need to make sure that they're following our laws already in the books. And if we need to enforce some, make some other rules or regulations that to keep up with whatever environmental pollution is happening, then we need to enforce it and strengthen those.
Mm-hmm. Great. We'll pivot one more time, try to get one more policy area in here before we finish up. We talked a little bit about education at the beginning. Obviously, school board member, kind of how the sausage gets made. You expressed that, there's a lot of parents who don't want their kids to be back in school in any capacity. We're worried about the risks for COVID-19. There's not just your district, but the districts across the state have been taking votes on whether or not to return at all, to varying degrees of results. But I guess when I hear Republicans or whomever say kids deserve an in-person education, they learn better, I understand that argument. So like how do you balance these two things, where there's parents who clearly don't want to go back, kids who probably don't want to go back, teachers who probably don't want to go back, but like also you can't teach kids online forever, and there's a lot of working parents who just can't afford the time or energy to ensure that their kids have a learning environment that's conducive to their success.
Right. Well, first of all, teachers are not babysitters.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's first off. They're professionals. They're educators, and I understand. I understand that there's a need for working parents, and I also understand the teachers, and I understand. I mean, we have some of the highest suicides and depression rates in our state. I mean, mental health is a real thing, and it's big among our youth here in Arizona, and so I get it. In our district, in a lot of districts, are giving parents the option. So in our district, even if the teachers didn't want to go back into the classroom, we allow students who don't have access to internet or don't have a quiet place to do their schoolwork to come into the campus and work and do schooling that way. So those kids that opt to do that can do that already in our district. And so there are also many parents that are saying, I'm not sending my kids back. There is no way I'm going to send my kids back. And so we understand both sides of the token. But what teachers can't be forced to do and can't do is do both, right? You're either sitting in the classroom in front of live bodies, or you're sitting at home in front of your laptop. We can't expect them to do both. So this is the argument. This is what the teachers wanted. They want to be able to continue to teach virtually, even if the kids are there in person, because you can't be in both places at once, right? They can't be in front of their computer if they're going to be in front of students. And so that's the option that many districts, including my districts, have given families and students so that they can come back. Everybody wants to be back in the classroom. Honestly, teachers don't want to be continuing to do this. It's not out of a desire or a need. It's because there's a world pandemic happening that they're choosing to do this.
Mm-hmm. So I'm curious. A lot of our decision making at this point is based on us reaching certain benchmarks. Once you cross X or Y threshold, you can do Z thing. And we've seen, with ASU, for example, that sometimes school reopenings can take place in such a way that a lot of people get sick, a lot of people get exposed. Even once let me reframe the question. As we move forward and as our case numbers hopefully decline, which they've been doing a little bit of, if we get to a point where it seems like schools are really safe to reopen, teachers, everybody feels comfortable, if we get to that point, how do you ensure that this kind of thing doesn't happen again, that if they go back, people aren't accidentally creating or triggering a third or fourth wave or whatever at wherever we're at that point, what's the message or precautions that they should be taking? Sorry.
You froze on me a little bit, so
Can you?
but I think I get the gist
Yeah,
of your
please go ahead. Yeah.
So, well, first of all, the benchmarks were created for a reason, right? And so once we've met all the benchmarks, then we need to have a plan on how we're going to have everybody back in the classroom. The measures that need to take place, the cleaning, the hand sanitizer, the wearing face masks. That's one of the things that we did at our last board meeting. We also amended our policy to make sure that we included that everyone, part of the dress code is wearing a mask. And so there it varies, right? If you go from county to school district to state to the national numbers that Johns Hopkins Institute is giving you a different metric than the one our state is doing. Then I read an article that our state isn't really taking into account about 25% of the test results. So that makes our positivity rate look lower than what it actually is. And so first of all, we need to decide like what is going to be our benchmark, because if you look at different metrics, it gives you different things, right? But what is the focus? Like why do we want to alter our results to make it seem like it's less than? What is it that we're really trying to go after? Are we really trying to keep our students safe and get everybody back in safely and not allow another pandemic or another surge of COVID cases to rise? Or do we want to just hurry up and open up because we are interested in profits? So we need to really think about what our focus is. And to me, it's people over profits and people over politics. And that's where the focus is. Once we've met the benchmarks, focusing really on the people and not just on the urge of wanting to open up quickly for the sake of profits, because that will cost lives. That has cost lives, over 5,000 in Arizona.
Great, thank you. On that note, we are heading up upon a half hour, so I think we will wrap things up here in terms of questions and answers and move on to your closing statement, which you can begin at any time.
Great, thank you. I'm having computer issues. Okay, there you go.
Sorry, I surprised
you. I didn't freeze the whole time, so that was good. Well, thank you again, Citizens Clean Elections Commission, for sponsoring this debate. And thank you, Arren. Did I say that right? Arren. I'm sorry, I keep butchering your name. Arren, for moderating. It's been a pleasure. And thank you all of those running, even those that didn't show up today, my opponents, the viewers, and especially the 16,000 plus voters that assured my victory in the primary election, as well as all of the Democratic clubs in my LD, Wickenburg, Sundance, Verrado, Sun City, Pebble Creek, Litchfield Park, Yuma, and Waddell, and of course our LD. Thank you for your countless volunteer hours. I didn't get here alone, and I'm sitting here today because of our collective efforts. In the past, your interests have not been well represented in the state legislature. I will put people over politics. If you want someone who will work tirelessly for what is important to you and your families, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat or independent, you owe it to yourselves to vote for change. And if you want change, a voice, representation, and care about the people who have lost their lives, their jobs, their homes, healthcare insurance, and many that are still at risk of losing all of that, I invite you, voters of LD13, to help me build a better future together for all of us. I hope you will allow me to lend a helping hand to all those in LD13 that need a hand up. We all deserve to work, live, and survive with dignity, ensuring everyone has quality healthcare, a good education, and a good paying job with proper worker protections. Everyone deserves an opportunity for a better life. No one deserves to be left behind. I am on the ballot for you. Allow me to be your voice of change in the State House of Representatives. All you have to do is activate your voice by voting Mariana Sandoval on November 3rd, 2020. I hope I can earn your vote. It would be my absolute honor and privilege to serve you. Thank you.
Great, thank you, and thank you for a lovely discussion and a nice evening. With that, Voters, Arizonans, et cetera, I bid you good night. Thank you.
Good night.